When this mom from Michigan started noticing some strange incidents happening in her home, she decided to take matters into her own hands and investigate them. She wanted to find a logical explanation for all of this. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like and share this video with your friends. As the days passed and she was still unable to determine the source of these strange noises, she grew more and more paranoid. She even suspected her fiancé, but he assured her he had nothing to do with it. She was starting to grow more and more worried. What was wrong? Should she be worried? Was the family in danger, or was she simply overreacting? It really was time to find the answers. So, she decided to take matters into her own hands. She set up a baby monitor in hopes of finally getting the answer she needed. However, what really made her worried was the weird scratches on her baby's face. Heather Braud lived with her fiancé, Joshua Higgins, together with their 1-year-old Lily, in Joshua's mother's guest home in Michigan. They had already been there for about a year when they suddenly announced their intentions of leaving. However, this wasn't just a sudden decision. It began when Heather noticed weird marks on Lily's face. Over time, the scratches continued to show up on her face. Was her baby just scratching herself, or was there something more serious going on? Before all these strange events began, Heather and Joshua had a seemingly charmed life. The two were happily in love and loved raising their daughter together. It seemed like the perfect life one can only dream about. However, once Heather began hearing weird noises, things took a dark turn. She heard thumping on the floor, squeaking door hinges, and random footsteps that seemed to have come from the kitchen. Finally, when she noticed the scratches on Lily's face, she decided she had enough. Heather began questioning Joshua whether he had been going to Lily's room in the middle of the night. Joshua angrily denied Heather's accusation and said he was not involved in any way whatsoever. Still, Heather was suspicious, which led to growing tensions between the couple. Since it seemed like she wasn't getting answers from anyone, she decided to take matters into her own hands to figure out what was going on. Heather felt like she was in a tight spot. She knew she was living this fairy tale life with Joshua, and she didn't want that to come to a halt. However, there were other things she had to consider. She knew that if Joshua, the father of their baby, was hurting Lily, she could not just sweep this under the rug. She knew deep down there was something strange going on in this house, and she was set on figuring it out. This is exactly the reason why Heather decided to buy a baby monitor for Lily. Joshua even went with her to the store and helped her set it up in Lily's bedroom. Heather hoped the baby monitor would give her the answer she needed. Joshua suggested they set the baby monitor up in a way that they could get a good view to see if Lily was scratching herself. Heather agreed, but she also made a mental note of making sure Lily's nails were always trimmed. The couple chose the Logitech Circle 2 camera, which had a night vision feature. They hoped this would allow them to determine what or who was stirring up all this trouble, especially since most things happened at night. Although they had trouble sleeping, they soldiered on and decided to get up early in the morning to check up on their daughter and review footage. When they got to Lily's room, they were surprised to see more scratches on her face. It was time to check the camera. Heather was completely shocked when she reviewed last night's footage. The video showed a dark figure of the man appearing in Lily's bedroom. Heather thought this meant Joshua was just sleepwalking. However, this fact would not explain why Lily still had scratches on her face. It would not explain the creepy noises too. With a sense of dread, she knew she had to let it go on for a few days first before she could fully understand the situation. When Heather reviewed the footage a second time around, she noticed something else. When the man entered Lily's room, she pulled herself up with the help of the side rails of her crib, so it seems her daughter knew the person. Then, the shadowy figures seemed to turn towards the monitor. It was at that moment that Heather realized this figure was not her husband at all. Chills began running down her spine as she continued watching the video. Heather's heart was pounding as if she had just finished running a marathon. She noticed her surroundings begin to spin, and she felt like she had to sit down before anything bad might happen to her. She could not understand who this person in her daughter's room could possibly be. The thought that a stranger had infiltrated her home and targeted her little girl petrified. She didn't know what to do. She realized what she was seeing on camera explained the strange noises too. The man was trudging through their house. However, there was something on that video that shook her to the core. When the figure passed her daughter's crib, he became completely transparent. Heather could not believe it. She knew she had to show this to Josh immediately, and that they also needed to get out of that house now. Joshua recalled, "It was chilling. It was a chill running down my spine. Like that what-if factor. Is this what I just saw?" Even Joshua himself couldn't believe what he was seeing on camera. Heather also said, "Seeing the scratches on Lily's face was so bizarre and frightening. I was crying. What happened to my baby? I grabbed her jacket and ran over to my mother-in-law's house. Nobody knew what happened. We wondered if she'd scratched herself, but her little hands did not match up to the scratches on her face." Both Joshua and Heather were shaken at the thought that the shadowy, ghostly figure had entered their daughter's room as they all slept peacefully. How had they not noticed this before? All this time they thought they were safe, but it seems that wasn't the case. Joshua was just as terrified as Heather, and they both agreed that they needed to get out as soon as possible. They decided to call the police, and the police redirected them to the Scientific Paranormal Investigations of Michigan. Mike Priest, co-owner of the Scientific Paranormal Investigations of Michigan, brought a team of experts over to investigate their home. The team had a look at the video footage and investigated the whole house. Unfortunately, their final report did not bring any good news to Heather, Joshua, and his mother. The team reported that they thought the house could be haunted by supernatural beings. What would they do now? Heather revealed that this was not the first time she had experienced a strange situation. She recalled, "I woke up to get ready for work one morning, and it felt like someone was choking me. Then it shook me, and at that point, I decided to buy our camera." She also shared, "There have been times where my fiancé and I would wake up in the morning and hear an angry male someone had stubbed their toe. At that time, they thought nothing of it. In hindsight, maybe they should have." Mike Priest said, "I believe something is going on at this house. We are looking forward to checking out this one as well." Then Mike and his team decided to do a bit more digging. So they set up their recording equipment and began their investigation. For a bit, all they heard were strange sounds, but then something else was caught on tape. Mike said, "We heard something say, 'Oh, here we go. Oh yeah, I heard it as plain as day.'" The next logical step was to determine where these strange things and noises could be coming from. Priest and his team assured Joshua and Heather they were going to review the footage and find a logical explanation for it. They couldn't conclude it to be paranormal activity just yet, so they decided to turn to Joshua's mother, Chris, to ask her about the house and its origins. Who were the previous owners and who owned it? Chris told Priest and his team, "I was told when we bought the house, a little more than 11 years ago, that the lady who owned the property died in the main house. It used to be an old farmhouse. According to the niece, she had fallen down the stairs, broken both hips, and lay there for a very long time before she passed away. She said that the guest house was built for the lady's brother who was schizophrenic," she added. This seems to be a very acceptable answer. However, Chris's husband, Jim, has a different version of this house's history. Instead of the lady, he had a story about the previous tenant, which he shared on WXYZ-TV Detroit. Jim said, "The gentleman that lived here originally, then jumped out this window, which is one story down." However, neither Jim nor Chris's accounts helped Heather and Joshua understand what was happening. Given their situation, it's completely understandable that these young parents were worried and wanted to get out of the house as soon as possible. Heather said, "It scares us that it could do something else. It's not physically just going after her. It feels like it's going after myself too. This made us want to leave as soon as possible. As soon as possible, we are out of here. This is a spirit. I don't know what its intentions are, but at this point, it's becoming physically harmful," she added. Not knowing what else to do and out of desperation, Heather decided to go public with her story. She uploaded the footage taken from the camera to social media, hoping it would garner attention and she'd get an answer out of it. Well, she got exactly what she wanted. The video spread like wildfire across the internet. Some of the people who watched it claimed they got chills. However, other people were skeptical and questioned the validity of the video. There was one person specifically who was rather skeptical about it. His name is Kenny Biddle, and he's a writer for the Skeptical Inquirer. There was something he noticed that many people failed to do. There's something else I noticed right away. The ghost was casting a shadow too. This tells me the figure is a solid physical object able to reflect light. In the first milliseconds of the video, as the figure is moving to the left, you can see its shadow move across the ceiling right by the ceiling fan. Now you might be wondering who Kenny Biddle is, what the Skeptical Inquirer is, and how they're involved in the story. Well, it's a magazine whose slogan is, "The Magazine for Science and Reason." The magazine's mission statement is, "The Committee for Skeptical Inquiry promotes science and scientific inquiry, critical thinking, science education, and the use of reason in examining important issues." It encourages the critical investigation of controversial or extraordinary claims from a responsible, scientific point of view, and disseminates factual information about the results of such inquiries to the scientific community, the media, and the public. Although we've heard countless stories about paranormal activity, there have even been movies about paranormal activities that appear to be based on a true story. There are still people out there who are skeptical about it. There are even publications out there that try to debunk paranormal activities. One of these is Skeptical Inquirer, which aims to provide a scientific explanation behind all these seemingly unusual and often unnatural events, like Heather's. Biddle said, "I would surmise either Heather and Slash or Joshua had been watching television and had a reason to get out of bed, perhaps to go down to the kitchen for a drink/food or a visit to the bathroom. They must have paused the video and walked across the room, not realizing they were being recorded. At a later, unspecified time, they reviewed the footage and concluded the distorted figure was a ghost due to a lack of understanding of video cameras." As for the weird scratches on their daughter's face, Biddle argued, aside from technical issues, it is not uncommon for babies to scratch themselves. We know from her statements that Heather discovered the scratches after waking the baby up from a nap. But there's nothing to rule out the possibility Lily scratched herself while sleeping, Biddle concluded. At this point, things were getting interesting, but as Biddle did more research, he found something much more interesting. Biddle also said, "I'm not sure exactly what the motivation behind these claims is, but I do have my suspicions. I went to Heather Brau's Facebook page earlier today and noticed that she posted her first public post since November of 2018. What was so interesting about this post, you ask? It was a link to a GoFundMe account that she created that day, March 26, 2019, with a goal of $5,000. She was asking for this amount to help her move out of the guest house, citing her daughter's safety from all the paranormal activity as the main reason for the fundraising. Biddle decided to message Heather on Facebook, saying, "Hello, my name is Kenny Biddle, and I've been investigating paranormal claims for the last 20+ years. Your recorded video of what is believed to be a walking ghost in your home was brought to my attention by several paranormal groups. After taking a look at it, I was wondering if there was a longer clip than that, perhaps footage showing some men leading up to, and including, the clip that was shared on ABC Action News. The clip that has been shared starts with the figure already in motion, and I was hoping to see where it originates.